Ice cream man. I had gotten used to checking Craigslist before buying in anything new, so when my ice cream maker died, I headed there. I found the new one I wanted, new in box, and emailed to see if it was still available. For some reason, I assumed I was talking to a woman, and we made plans to meet up. I had gotten sort of careless about always meetings in public, and I'd agreed to come to her home, believed she had several small kids that made it difficult to leave home. I was supposed to go after work, and we switched to text messages so they could text the address, so I could let them know when I was on the way. I got home, and they texted me the address. My normal routine at this point would have been to hop in the car and use the TomTom. It was 2008 to find it, but since I had booted up my PC while waiting, I decided to just use Google Maps. I typed in the address and it showed that a registered sex offender, violent sex offender, and child sex offender lived there. I googled the phone number, and the same person came up. I let them know I was not coming, went to Walmart, and spent $5 more to buy it there. So, Mr. Sex Offender, who tried to lure me with ice cream, let's not meet. Creepy phone call with the weird Craigslist dad. Not sure if this belongs here, but years ago when I was about 13 years old, I don't remember my age exactly, but it was around middle school, I made a post on Craigslist advertising babysitting services as a way to make some money. The morning after I made the post, I got a phone call, no number, from a man supposedly interested in hiring. As soon as I heard his voice, I got an anxious feeling. He was whispering, talking very low, and kind of slow the entire time. It was extremely off-putting. Sounded like he was middle-aged, so we exchanged hellos, and he says what he's calling about, and asks what I'm charging, asks my name, which he would repeat over and over and over again throughout the entire conversation, just add to the strangeness, age, other details, etc. So anyways, he says he has a young son for whom he needs a babysitter for. Then he begins asking me about my experience, and then strangely diving into overly lengthy descriptions of his own life. I don't remember the details of the conversation, but I do remember one thing he says, extremely clear. Now, says my name, my son, sometimes he likes to touch himself. That wouldn't bother you, would it? And his creepy, slow, low voice. I just remember being filled with anxiety at that, and wanted to hang up immediately and not take this job. It was sort of beyond TMI. His voice and tone really made it a lot worse, though. He sounded serious, but at this point, I was partly convinced that this was some sort of a prank, and I was almost certain he did not have a kid. I had no idea how to respond to that, and even though this was on the phone, me being a stupid and at that point, a petrified 13-year-old kid, I just responded with, no. And I'm sure he realized how nervous I sounded, because he just gave a low little chuckle and continued on, because you know how little boys are. Honestly, a lot of details of the conversation are blurred, and it went by fairly quickly. I just remember kind of nodding and yesing my way to the end when he asked my availability and said he would give a call back. He ended with, okay, thanks, my name, and with a little chuckle and hung up. I can't remember whether he gave me his information or not, but I'm pretty sure he did not call back. I do remember jumping onto my computer and taking my ad down. As soon as that conversation ended, I felt like complete crap after that phone call and wondered whether that was a normal discussion for an adult to try and have with a potential child babysitter. I mean, it's not, right? So, definitely glad I never met this dude. Terrible vibes just through the phone. Don't ever use Craigslist ever. I live in a small village in the very north of Scotland, so large shops and resources are a far distance. For that reason, I usually rely on internet shopping to get to my needs. I need to buy a backpack for when I leave for university, one better than the one I already have. So I turn to Craigslist as I normally do. As a student, I prefer to go for the cheap option. Craigslist usually provides that. After looking for a short while, I came across a really good looking bag. It was with only a very cheap price. I thought this was an absolute steal, so I phoned the seller. Immediately what struck me was this guy's accent. It's obvious he wasn't Scottish or even from the UK. He sounded Polish or something. I'm still not sure. He said he was from Glasgow. That's at least 5 hours by car from where I live, but when I told him the area I was from, he reluctantly offered to come to my house to give it to me. This all seemed strange, being that the sale was only for like so little money. Nonetheless, I foolishly gave him my fucking address. He said he'd drop by later on that day. Skipping forward about 7 hours to like 10 p.m. at night, I was thinking that he wasn't going to come, but at around 10:20 there was a chap at the door. Surprised that it was so late, I looked out the window, round to the front door, and sure enough, it was a young guy standing with a backpack in his hand. Slightly relieved that it wasn't a robber, I went to the door and opened it. It was the guy on the phone for sure. The accent confirmed it. He said, "Hey, here it is." I smiled and took out my wallet, taking out double because of the trouble he wanted to come here and give me the condition of the bag. He smiled and opened his arms as if he wanted a hug. Being a gay guy, I rarely turned down a hug and just assumed it was a cultural thing, so I hugged him and he left. I was still confused that he came all the way just for that, but I didn't find it overtly strange. Boy, was I wrong. At around midnight, I was finishing another episode of 24 and was ready to go to bed. From outside the house, I heard a car door shut. I paused the TV and went over to the window to see who it was. I recognized the car as being the green sedan that the guy had, but he wasn't there, no one was. It was at that point that I heard the back gate opening. I fucking nearly shat myself. I ran quietly to the kitchen where the back door is, staying down low, as a way to avoid whoever it was seeing me from the kitchen window. I don't usually lock the doors till I go to bed, so both were still locked. I grabbed the keys from the counter and quickly locked the door. As I did, I got a fright at the security light turning on in the back garden. I looked up to see that it was him again. He had a creepy smile on his face, no teeth showing, just a smile. I stood up and shouted, "Whoa, dude, what the fuck are you doing back there?" He said nothing and just smiled, looking directly at me. I found myself staring at him until the situation kicked in, and I took the keys from the back door, then bolted the front door to lock it. About halfway to the front door, I heard a window smash in the kitchen. My stomach ached at the fact that he's probably making his way into my house. I make a turn to go up the stairs towards the toilet so I can lock myself in there. When in the toilet, I heard him stumbling and broken glass falling to the floor. He was in my house. I pulled my phone out of my pocket and dialed 911. Told them the situation as fast as I could, and they said they'll get officers out to me as fast as possible. The police station was just up from my village, so I knew someone who would get there generally quick. The officer asked me to stay on the phone until someone arrived. I was focused on the guy's footsteps, which would slow down and speed up every so often. He eventually walked upstairs and tried to open the bathroom door. When he realized it was locked, he said, "I know you're in there, Cameron." Hearing him say my name made my stomach churn. I screamed, "The police are coming! Just back the fuck off, man!" After saying that, he started to kick the door. I backed up against it with more strength than I knew I had. Then in the distance, I heard the sirens and blue lights reflecting from the bathroom windows. He continued to kick the door, but then I heard the car doors open outside and fast footsteps. I heard the front door open, and then police officer with a taser dropped the knife. Again, I felt sick knowing he had a knife. It sounded as if he started running back downstairs. Then I heard taser, 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 and the guy screamed. Then a thump, and then silence. After he came through, they officially arrested him for attempted murder and trespassing. I have pressed charges, but the fact that he won't get more than 7 months in jail. After that, he'll be free to come right back. I'm now trying to sell my house to get out of here as fast as possible. Thank you guys for reading. All I want to say is, don't give out your address to people, kids. It might just come bite you in the ass like it did me. And when a deal is too good to be true, know that it is too good to be true. And never ever post anything on Craigslist like I did that day. Don't use the internet to buy or sell, guys.